Hey, what's up, everybody? Radex here, the one from 72, the ultra neutral. And I always thought that it would be kind of basic and easy to understand the neutrality. The fact that I am a ultra neutral person. I have been neutral my entire life. But I guess it's harder for other people to understand that. Obviously, the humans are forced into boxes, right? Like from the moment that you're born, whoever your parents are, they had to check boxes. So because they had to check boxes, they want you to check boxes. And these boxes set up your identity, right? Like they don't, just as if you were born into this world and you were given a social security number that you never asked for. You didn't say, hey, I want to sign up for a social security number. And you never got the chance to opt out of having a social security number outside of leaving the government, this country and going someplace else. But for the most chances are you're going to go someplace else where they're going to also issue you a number on some type of identification card to check the boxes, right? To not be a true free human. So, yeah, you're forced into checking all these boxes. And in those boxes from the very beginning is government, right? What country do you belong to? That's your government that runs that country. What religion? A lot of people, or a lot of identifications, they want to know, what your religion is. Like when you go to the hospital, it used to be they would ask you what your religion is. It's very important what your religion is. The government is also ran by religion. If you don't believe that, just look up the house and how they start off. And the other thing is your race. Now, your race is very, very important, and it shouldn't be important at all. But yet it is very important. It is important for your status and where you supposedly belong, right? Well, if you are a child of Earth, then you belong to Earth. You do not belong to a certain section of Earth. You belong to all of the planet. And every other child that is a child of Earth also belong to that same Earth, and you all belong together, not separate parts of Earth. It is the mother itself to all of the humans here, right? And ideally. And in the other, so like those are the three main things, right? That's the three main things that they want to force those boxes onto you. What boxes do you check? What race are you? Check your race. White, black, Hispanic, Asian, other, right? That's usually a typical. They give you those options, as if it really matters. The other one is, what religion are you? Are you a Buddhist? Are you Christian? Are you Islamic? Are you Judaism? Are you, whatever, other denominations of these religions too, right? There's like denominations, especially Christianity, it's the most that has like so many different, like you pick your flavor. It's like 57 flavors at the ice cream bar. You go in there because you want something sweet to eat. And when you go in to get something sweet to eat, you're now bombarded with which flavor you want. And you may try the chocolate rocky road, but you didn't like that. Something didn't go down right. So that's okay, because now you can try the, strawberry. And it may be kind of like that, but, hey, the vanilla is looking really good. So that is Christianity by itself, and everybody knows this. This is not a secret. It's not like new information. So that's the other box that they want you to check. Check those boxes. And then check the box of government. What country you're in is what government you belong to. And if you're in this country, in America, were you born in America? That's another box you have to check, right? Are you American because you were born in America, or are you American because you came from another country? Another box that you need to check. You come from Mexico, well, you got to check that box. Well, now you're a legal legal immigrant in America. It's absurd, right? Children of the earth. So when I talk about neutrality and being neutral, I'm talking about remove all the checks from those boxes. And the sad thing is I don't think humans can do it. Like, I don't think that they can literally remove all those checks from those boxes to live within those boxes, because that is what frames their identity. It's truly like being an NPC in a game, because you have to have some type of code written in for your identity of who you are. Well, that code is these boxes, and to uncheck those and to say, hey, you know what? I'm really not going. I don't mean that whole I unidentify with, like your sexuality type thing, how that's just really gone really, really wild. And I don't have anything against any of those people either. But I'm not supporting it as well. That's neutrality. I'm not against the LGBTQ community, but I'm also not supporting the LGBTQ community. How hard is that for you to understand? Like, I don't want to be a part of whether it is a good thing or it's a bad thing. It's not, I'm not a part of it. So I don't want to be a part of it. If I choose to be against it, now I am a part of that thing, because I am on the opposition of that thing. If I choose to be for that thing, then obviously I am also a part of it then too. Neutrality isn't standing by, because somebody said about this and I was like, wow, it seems like it's a basic thing to understand, but I get it. Humans have a hard time with this. Neutrality isn't seeing somebody being victimized, because somebody else is hurting that person, and deciding to not do anything. That has to do with your heart. That has to do with your character and your heart. And for you not to step in and try to stop that person from being hurt or whatever, that's on you. That has nothing to do with neutrality. That is not a neutral position. A neutral position is you joined a military that is part of a government, that's ran by a government. And you go and join because you want to do good. I get it. I understand. Most people don't join the military to do bad things. A lot of people who done awful things in the military didn't start off by joining the military saying, I want to do awful things. What happened? What changed? Okay. The other thing is once you join the military, and if you willingly know by now, with all the movies and people's testimonies and stuff, and the government itself sanctioning itself and or whatever, all these things against its own programs, and showing you that, hey, we have run programs in the past where we've done heinous things to our own soldiers, our own troops. We have done heinous things in the past to other people in other countries. Once you join that group, once you join that military or police department or anything that has to do with governing by force, right? Once you join those groups, I don't care if you go in saying, I'm going to be lily white clean all the way through from, the time you join the group to the time that you retire and leave the group. It doesn't matter. You're still supporting the bad parts of the group. Indirectly, you're doing it. Guilt by association. I don't know why people can't understand this, but without all the cogs, without all the wheels, the machine doesn't work. And if you are going to be just one little tiny wheel, one little tiny sprocket on the clock that keeps the time, and you're going to be that working wheel, you make the whole machine work. Neutrality is the opposite of this. Neutrality says, I do not want to join here's the four main ones for me. I don't support or want to join any government of this earth. I don't support or want to join any religion of this earth. I don't support or want to join any race identity of this earth. And I'll explain that in a minute. And then number 4 is I don't want to join or support any big groups of this earth. And let me start with big groups real fast, because that's going to be the one that I think most people are going to be confused on. And I'm going to work my way up backwards from this list. Big groups are like Black Lives Matter. There are people who join that group, not just black people, but all kinds of people all over the world. There are people who joined that group because they thought that they were doing good, right? They were like, there was atrocities happening against these minorities, and they wanted to stand up against it. Now, people did this a long time ago. The slaves did not free the slaves in America. White people freed the slaves in America. White people who had to fight and die against their own white people in America, right? They had to fight against them. So I understand the notion to join at a nobility a group to do that all over again, to try to stop heinous things and to turn a blind eye to it and just say, to see people being hurt and not say anything or do anything. That goes back to the very thing that I said before. It's not neutral by standing by and just watching somebody get hurt. It's neutral by not joining a group, because we obviously found out that the BLM movement had some other sinister and things going on behind the scenes. There again is what happens when these big groups happen. By the way, you can research that back to 1972 from the first Black convention. The other one is the opposite, right? Is the QAnon movement, which is number 17, which predicts 2 groups against each other, which is 172, but I'm not going to go through all the numbers and stuff today. So anyhow, that's another movement where there are people who are good people, good-hearted people, who join that group because they want to stop crimes against, minors and stuff, okay? They join that group because they want to do what they feel is right. And I understand those people, just like I understand the people who joined into the BLM movement. However, there is also sinister stuff going on with that group. In fact, although now they're saying, hey, this one guy created it, but for such a long time, you didn't know who created it. That is exactly how governments run PSYOP movements, right? Create a distrust inside of the country, create a group for people who are disgruntled against the country. Then those people will join that group. It's a honeypot. They will join that group, will monitor that group, will know who's the people who are in that group, will pay attention to those people. So when the time comes and a next civil war happens, we'll know exactly who to go after. But if we don't put those groups together, if we don't set that up, then we'll never know who those people are, because they'll be in back alleys and they'll be, out in the sticks somewhere, talking about these things. But they make these groups and people add this stuff onto their Facebook and whatever with a Q, and they're virtual signaling to everyone that they're part of that group. Well, there's sinister stuff going on in that group as well. In fact, I posted a video about that group where this guy was an ex-military guy who was 100% into that movement, and he went and thought that he was saving some child from something happening, and he ended up murdering the entire family and shooting some little girl 4 times or something like that. And he was 100% part of that group. Now, this is what I'm talking about. A big group And you have people like that, and you don't even know if that guy, because first of all, he was ex-military, which is also another group, that he is part of a psyop to set up your now group that you're attached to. Neutrality means to not join any of these big groups. It's the same thing as joining a men's movement group, right? You cannot join just a men's movement group, because inside of that group, you end up having extremists, where you have chauvinistic issues where that can start spreading. Although some men may go there because they want some camaraderie and stuff, because they want to be part of a boys' club, and nothing against the women, but however, inside of that group, you're going to find people who become extremists and who want to push extremism and to belittle and to make women less than men. Same thing with the women's group. Same thing. Cannot join a woman's group. Women go in there because they're looking for that support of being with other women, like-minded women and stuff like that, and to talk about female issues and stuff like that. But at the same time, there is very nasty bitterness inside of that group. Some very man-hating stuff in the group. This is all to separate you as a human species. All these groups separate you as a human species. So yes, groups are one thing. Going up the list is race. I don't need to go down that one. I think you get it. You know, if you're pumping, you know, your pride of, you know, your race, you know, because you're Mexican, or you're black, or you're Latino, or whatever, you know, Asian or whatever, you always get people who are not part of that race. There's always someone who feels like you're trying to separate yourself from them, as if that you're better because of your race, but really you're all one race. Now, I'm not saying that you cannot not want to just be with, if you're Caucasian, want to just mate with somebody who's Caucasian. If you're Latino, do not just want to mate with Latino. I'm not saying it has to be a giant mixing pot, because if it becomes a giant mixing pot, then all those beautiful races, all of them, and you all are beautiful races, you will wash all that stuff away. And to just become one race would be like just being like the Greys, you know, or just some type of a drone race. And you don't really want that in the end. You want that diversity of the different races, but to celebrate and identify as that race. And I talk about being Irish, French, and my father, which I suppose is black. I talk about that, but I don't pump pride into that, you know? And so saying that you are a thing, there is no harm in saying you are a thing. But to use that as your as a box to check, I am this and you are that. It's this separation. There's no problem with identifying who you are or what your bloodline is. But if you want to celebrate the race, make a flag called human. Just put human on a flag and celebrate that race. How about that? That's neutrality. And just celebrate just being a human being. The other is religion. And I don't really need to go too much on that too. You already understand the problems with the religions of this world. And I don't care what religion. I'm not talking about the three main religions: Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. I'm also talking about the Buddhists. I can't remember what it's called that the Indians, and I mean the Indians from India. I can't remember what their religion's called. I'm sorry, but there's Taoism. There's all these different religions, and I don't need to tell you why taking a neutral stance. If I have to tell you why taking a neutral stance to step back from those religions and to just be human, then you already fundamentally have character flaws. Because, first of all, I'm just going to go to the Bible. At this point, I've already shown you in a 162-year-old Bible, the words have been changed. And if the words have been changed, then no omnipotent God could have written that, okay? We also know the fact that men decided which books were going to be in there, right? So if we go back to the source, you always have to go back to where did this come from? I know that we all eat food that we get in a grocery store, and we have no idea where that's coming from. And a lot of people are getting sick from it, but they don't know where it's coming from, yet they feel like they have to eat it. This is the same thing that's happening with the religions. They're making you sick, but you feel like you have to eat this thing. You have to consume it, but you really don't know where it's truly coming from. You have no idea. Even if you go to the Vatican, where Christianity comes from. It's not just some magical book that just popped up magically in your hotel on the end table. It comes from, that's the source. Go to the Vatican and ask to see the original text. Ask to see everything that they have. They're not going to allow you to go there. So you don't know truly what was really written or what any of that stuff is in there. Most people don't even know and will be shocked to find out that the Pope sits on a gold toilet in the Vatican. That is what the Pope sits on, is a gold toilet. So you don't know where he shits, who is the sole record keeper. You don't even know where he takes a dump, let alone, what paper he's even using to wipe his ass to take a dump with. So, I don't really think I have to go further into their neutrality and the problem with the religion. You don't need it. And for those people who out there who say, and I'm not saying that you should identify with, here's another one, and I think I just now popped up, is atheism. That's another group. These atheism groups also have a lot of problems. I choose neutrality not to join any of those groups. Are there a God? There may be many gods out there. I don't know until I actually have one who bothers to waste his time or its time, because why would we give a gender to a God? Because a gender on a God means that God must reproduce. And if that God needs to reproduce, then that means that God was born, yet it could not have been the first creator. Gender doesn't even make any sense to a being that powerful, let alone forcing anything to have to worship it or forcing punishment on something that doesn't worship it. That doesn't even make any sense. That is a waste of that being's time. But if that being wanted to waste its time to come to me and show me, hey, I created this universe. I'm going to show you I'm creating other universes, and make it undoubtedly to show me that it created all these universes, I would still ask that being, why are you wasting your time with me anyhow? I am not creating or doing any of this stuff, so I'm just something that you created. So I'm not denying that these beings exist. And all you guys already know that it says in the Bible, let us make man in our image. So, and I don't take the Bible as legit, or any other religious text as legit history of really where you come from. Okay? So I'm going to move past that. I think you understand why I choose neutrality on these things. And yes, I studied all 66 books of the Bible. So, and there is no religion out there that's going to make me change my mind and change my stance. No group will I join to identify with, because inside of all those groups are extremism. All of them. And although there are good people, you were good before you joined the religion. That was already in you. And I know a lot of people are afraid. They say, well, if I don't have the religion to join, well then what's to stop me from going out and doing all these heinous things? You stop you from going out and doing those heinous things. You are already a fundamentally good person in your soul being of who you are. Before you join that group, before you join that religion, that is who you are. The religions disappear tomorrow. The bad people will still be the bad people. The good people will still be the good people. That will never change. And then the last one, which is the same thing I start, which this is a full circle going all the way back, is governments. Neutrality and governments. I already told you, and you should already understand why. Look, these systems are set up to keep you separated from the rest of your species. You're all like animals in a zoo. This is a zoo planet. And in a zoo, you keep the giraffes behind this wall, the rhinos behind that wall, the elephants behind this wall, and the lions behind that wall, and so forth. And then you feed them, you shelter them, you breed them, you give them whatever things that you want to keep them entertained. Maybe throw a big ball in there or whatever, or a big rope. And then they end up dying in that captivity behind those walls. And they never get to know what it's like to be free and to actually be able to just roam and do as they will around the other animals. Now we can see this when we look at Africa, right? And we see all the animals out there and they're actually intermingling with each other. And you can say, oh, well, they're killing each other and stuff like that. I mean, don't be a cynical asshole here. Try to understand that this message and my message of neutrality for the past few years has been and always will be to help unite you with the rest of your species in this zoo. To try to get you to, get past the wall. Stop self-incarceration. These governments, that's what they're here to do. They were set in place by someone who was not human. And you could say, oh, what was the devil, or was it? Come on. That's another part of what I talked about with religion. They had set this stuff in place to keep you separated. And it hurts my heart. And I'm going to get real with you guys here for a moment, which I never do. But it hurts my very soul being in my heart, since I was a small child, separated from the human race, the black, the white, the religions, and trying to understand. And I've spent this entire journey from 1972 trying to understand all of your point of views, even the radicals on all extremism, the Christian extreme, the Islam extreme, the Judas extreme. It doesn't matter. I try to understand instead of just hating them because you're told to hate them. I try to understand why they're even thinking this way. The racism, blacks who hate white people, who call white people the devil, white people who hate Mexican people, Mexican people who, I don't know if they, I never really know. That's one thing that's always kind of bothered me. I never knew who they hated. But it's always bothered me. It's always hurt my soul being to see how separated you are, how much you long to join these groups and to check these boxes, and how every time you check those boxes, a box is what? It's a cage. Uncheck the boxes. Try in your very being, before this extinction happens, try in your very being to become neutral. This is the only way, and I've said this many times before, it's the only way for the humans to evolve. It's the only way for the humans to move forward. The only reason why the beings who have been able to, extinct your species so many times before, this is the 7th extinction, is because you can't work together. In fact, it even goes into the religious doctrine. When the humans were working together in the Tower of Babel, which it doesn't make any sense you can build anything tall enough to get into heaven, but it would make sense that you can build something tall enough to get into a spaceship that looks like a city, the floating city, a spaceship. They're building a tower to get in there. But it makes sense that when the humans were working together, they were neutral, and they were able to accomplish something great. Because of that, an alien species decided to separate you through race, religion, governments, and these big groups. And with that, I hope you guys find that neutral spot inside of you. Really, really try hard to find this place of neutrality, so that before this extinction happens, you will have some worth to some species somewhere to move forward and evolve. And enjoy the rest of the time that you have left.